Hey there guys, how's it going? I hope you're all doing well and welcome to a brand new video where we're going to be talking about Atlas. This game was just recently announced at the Game Awards and I did a video already talking about the gameplay that we got to see in the gameplay trailer, breaking that down and trying to surmise as much information as possible from what we saw. Now in this video we're going to do a breakdown of the PC Gamer article that came out at the same time. The person who wrote this article actually managed to get hands-on experience with the game, which is going to allow us to have a much more in-depth idea of what we're actually going to be doing in this game. Is this going to be a competitor to Ark? Is it a replacement to Ark? Is it completely its own thing that doesn't really sit alongside that game? So there's a lot of information here that I'm just dying to discuss with you guys, so let's get stuck into it and see what the article has to say. So it starts off by saying Studio Wildcard, the creator of survival game poster child Ark Survival Evolved, is making a pirate-themed sandbox MMO where you can capture and govern entire islands, build and sail galleons, and then fight in massive sea battles against other players. It's EVE Online mashed with Ark, and it's releasing on Steam Early Access on December 13th for $30. So a couple of things that stick out from this first statement. It's an MMO, which Ark isn't really an MMO. People are on different servers, so I guess it could be loosely called that, but here we're going to see people playing together on a large scale. Also, you capture and govern islands. That's quite different to Ark. Obviously, you don't capture a server. I guess you do dominate a server, but this is a completely different idea. Maybe if you capture a server, are you then going to be able to be the only people who can build on there, the only people who can work on there, and so on? That'll be interesting to find out. They then have a quote from Studio Wildcard co-founder Jesse Rapzak that says, "We took everything that we loved about Ark and put it into the largest game world ever for an action-based MMO." Now, I love the way that they've described it as an action-based MMO, because that makes me feel like there's going to be a lot of battling to be had. The next quote from Jesse says, "We built some new technology that stitches together a world that's 1,200 times the size of a single Ark server." So already we're getting a lot of information here about how this is going to be drastically different from Ark Survival Evolved. I hope that this system is seamless. I hope that it's flawless. Who knows with new technology if it's going to be as smooth as we'd love it to be. But if they really can get worlds on that scale all playing together, this is going to be an experience like no other that's out there at the moment. The article then goes on to say that that's Atlas in its simplest form, a pirate-themed based successor to Ark stretched over a massive swathe of oceans, home to hundreds of islands. Atlas's ambitions far exceed anything Ark tried to achieve, and for one, it's truly an MMO where thousands of players can exist in one space together, and I mean together in an EVE Online sense of the world, where everyone plays on one server with small caveats. Atlas will only have one PvP and one PvE server for each major region, so players won't be arbitrarily segregated across hundreds of identical servers as in World of Warcraft. Now, as a content creator, I'm not sure how I feel about that, because obviously content creators, they get harassed like ridiculously in PvP games. Obviously, people want to stream snipe, for a better word, so it might make it more difficult for us to create content on the official servers, but either way, there's going to be so much fun to be had on these servers that it's not really too much of a worry for your average player. It just means for you guys, for the most part, you're all going to be able to come together. Now, are you going to be making tribes, or I guess, what would you use here? A group of pirates, a clan or something in this? Because that will drastically change the game, because we know Ark Survival Evolved as it is definitely a numbers game on official servers. The more players you have, the stronger you can be. And if you don't have large numbers of people working in the group, you basically can't really handle official servers. So you have to play like either specialized servers or private servers. So I hope there's some form of balance here, that players who want to play either alone or in small groups can have a fun experience on the official servers. Jesse then says that we really expect people to take advantage of the large size of the world to stake their claim on parts of the map, establish a government and build ships and outposts. So they definitely want people to create living, breathing worlds here. But in a PvP environment, I'm not sure how well that's going to go down. It would be interesting if they had some PvE areas where there was no fighting and then there was PvP in other areas, but who knows? I'm presuming that PvP means you can fight anywhere. We'll have to see. It'd be really interesting to see how they balance that out, because it will drastically change the experience. The article then goes on to say that unlike Eve, you won't need to wrestle with an arcane user interface just to play it, and for all that Atlas does, it's still deeply rooted in the first-person survival experience of Ark. That means chopping trees, taming wildlife, and managing basic systems like thirst and hunger while out at sea. That will undoubtedly disappoint people who already don't like Ark. Now, me personally, obviously, I'm an Ark fan for the most part. Like, I've got so many thousands of hours in Ark, so the whole idea of it being based in survival rather than based in some other form is fine with me, and I enjoy that aspect. That's what I love about Ark. It's like busy mind work but also adventure and exploring, so that sounds great to me. But for those of you who aren't particularly into survival games, that might not be appealing to you if you were interested in this game. Continuing on, the article states Atlas's simulation of life aboard a ship is about as authentic as it gets while still being fun. Similarly to Sea of Thieves, Atlas finds joy in emulating the little tasks that make a ship actually sail. Players can personally man cannons, unfurl and turn sails, or patch holes in their ship. On bigger ships, you'll need coordinated teams to manage everything, but Atlas also will let you hire NPC crew members to boss around. A big part of the game is recruiting the crew, keeping them paid and fed, so you actually have to drive these ships around. Rapzak explains that we've got a bunch of cool systems in the game for simplifying controls of your shipmates. So that's an interesting statement. It goes on and talks about NPC crew, but also makes it sound like you might be able to replace the crew with real players, or is it going to be essential that you have to have NPC crew to maintain your ship? We'll have to find out in a few days. Next, the article states that while you can still build bases on land, much like you can do in Ark, Atlas's ships are just as customizable. At launch, there will be 5 size templates to choose from, ranging from pitiful rafts all the way up to enormous galleons. Each template provides the base structure of the ship, but players are free to customize parts of it how they please. On the Brigantine, for example, the deck had more than enough space to erect a watchtower or high walls that shield the crew from incoming fire. Likewise, players can carve out the space below the deck with stairs, ladders, and crew cabins in whatever layout they choose. Artistic-minded players can go all out painting their ships crazy colours with a special tool that you import an emblem to proudly display anywhere you like. So that basically confirms what I was saying in my other video where I talked about Atlas and the gameplay trailer, that on the sails you're going to be able to put your own logos and stuff, and the ship themselves are going to be extremely customizable. So the article then goes on to briefly describe a ship battle that they had with around 6 ships. They said it was super fun, but the most fun was when 2 ships got close to each other and then the crewmates actually jumped across to each other's ships. So that's super fun that you can do that. You'd expect that in this game, and that is going to be super exciting, just breaching and boarding other people's ships. The article then also briefly describes that there are different biomes. Here they say that there was different islands such as frozen Arctic wastes, white sands and Mediterranean beaches. Hopefully there's going to be an even greater variety of stuff to explore and different types of islands, because I really love the adventure aspect of these kinds of games. So I want to go and discover all these little hidden gems, but Wildcard is normally pretty good at that stuff, so I'd expect them to have that in this game. So talking about what happens when you start the game up, the article says that when players start a new character, they'll spawn into one of a few free port towns that double as safe zones so that you can learn the ropes and build a ship without immediately being blown up. So this is actually different to Ark. Obviously in Ark, if you spawn in, there's nothing to save you. There's no safe zone or anything like that. So there is going to be a section here where people can just jump in and at least learn a little bit about the game without worrying about getting attacked straight away. Now, Jeremy did reveal that there is a main quest in this game, and it involves travelling the entire scope of the world, collecting 9 artifacts, bringing them together to the centre of the map where players can fight an enormous sea demon. Obviously that is kind of similar to Ark. Collect the artifacts, collect all of the tributes, and then you get to fight a boss. Seems like they've got something similar going on here. Who knows what kind of loot that enormous boss will give you, but it definitely gives you something to focus on outside of just purely fighting other players. The article then goes on to some of the real interesting ideas behind the gameplay. Jeremy actually mentioned that Atlas will launch with a basic government system where players can claim ownership over a piece of land and prevent others from playing and building there. Within that domain, governing players can set taxation rates that automatically deduct a portion of all resources and treasure gathered there straight into their bank. There's a real reason to become a benevolent government and own a huge swath of world map by invite players to come in and ally with you and become serfs. That sounds absolutely awesome, and that is something that would be cool if it was in Ark, but obviously they couldn't really do that, so they've put that into this new game. Imagine you're playing Ark. Obviously one of the problems in Ark is that once one tribe dominates an area or server, that they don't let anyone build there because there's no point in letting them build there, so they just kill everyone as soon as they turn up. In this game it seems like they're trying to give big mega and alpha tribes an opportunity to allow smaller tribes to build on their network, and all they have to do to live there is just give them a section of their resources, and the fact that it's automatically done is absolutely perfect. So this gives me hope that this will be a game that will allow big mega alpha tribes to play and smaller tribes in groups, and obviously these alpha tribes are going to be fighting to try and get the most people onto their island. So maybe you'll have like a tax war. You can join this mega tribe, but they'll give you 20% tax, and this tribe will give you 10, but maybe they're not as big. Lots of cool political things that could go on there that will make this game stand out. The article states that there is going to be some other things for you guys to do, like just going off on little buried treasure adventures. There'll be treasure maps that you can follow. X marks the spot and try and find the buried treasure wherever it may be. And also you can tame stuff, which is super cool. It does say in this article that that comes under PvE pursuits, but anyone who's played Ark will know that taming things is definitely part of the PvP as well. But you can just have your own little village, I guess, and have your own little area in PvE if that's what you want to do. And it seems like there's a lot of things to do if you don't want the stress of battling people and the politics of fighting people constantly. It does seem like you can have a really good time on this game. Jesse and Jeremy in this article also talk about the future of this game, and obviously because it's going to be in early access they will be releasing updates. I've got to say, considering that what they've shown and what they're saying is a huge amount of content already, so that is quite impressive. But the most interesting thing for one of the future plans is where people have to start a new character. So it says players will age in Atlas and eventually die if they get too old, forcing players to start a new character. Jeremy tells him that a second phase of that feature will be to include full systems where players can mate and birth children that they can transfer their stats to and take control of when they reach a certain age. Studio Wildcard is also working on a tarot card based magic system, and land ownership will expand it so players can even establish specific laws that have to be followed while in their territory. The idea is that one day players will log into Atlas, find a populated and lively world driven entirely by the whims of its players. That sounds incredible, and that is what we're talking about when we talk about next gen games and stuff like that. Ark has its problems, and Studio Wildcard might have made some weird decisions, but they're really trying to bring the next generation of game experience to you here. Like, this is something that doesn't exist in a standard game, and these guys take risks, and hopefully it will play off. The ideas that they have are absolutely incredible, and the idea of actually having to mate so that you can have like a son or a daughter to carry on your legacy is a really fun idea. I wonder how like awkward they're going to make that, but that could be done really well and will breathe new life into the game constantly. So in a move that is unlike most MMOs, but very much like Studio Wildcard, they are going to be releasing dev tools, which is super cool. Also, you're going to be able to have your own custom servers, they said. So if you don't like what's going on official, you can host your own thing. So who knows, maybe people will create some really interesting subsets of official servers using these tools. We know that with Ark, having dev tools available introduced some really cool stuff. Ragnarok and the Center were two maps that were created by just keen modders, and then eventually made it into the full game, as well as some of the modding community stuff that basically got implemented eventually. So this really helps with the development of the game and gives players a lot of options. Jeremy then talks about the development of Atlas and says that similar to Ark, it will likely be in early access for a couple of years, and it won't have any DLCs until at least it becomes fully released. Now, they do plan on doing some cosmetic items that you can get through microtransactions, which is something Ark doesn't have, and that will be in before they leave early access. Obviously, gamers in general, we all know that microtransactions can be done well. They can also be done very, very badly. So I have to wait and see if Wildcard does well with that. In terms of optimization and how well the game runs, Jeremy says that at launch it will run a lot better than Ark does, not only because of improvements in the Unreal Engine, but also Studio Wildcard's own code, and because it's a lot easier to render the open sea than it is dense jungles. So we can expect some pretty good frame rates in this game, especially when you're out sailing the seas. So that's basically everything this article covered, and I think you'll agree there was a lot of information to be found there. Everything that I read about this just makes me more and more excited. I can see huge potential in this, and yeah, there might be some problems along the way like there was with Ark, but one thing I know is that Ark is a survival game that's brought me experiences like no other out there, and there's a reason why Ark has such a huge cult following. If they can take all the lessons they've learned from the problems with Ark Survival Evolved and apply what they've learned to Atlas, and it looks like a lot of the things they have learned are being applied here, then we've got potential for something incredible here. I also really hope it comes out on the consoles as well, because that just adds to the audience, it adds to the excitement, it adds to the community. Everyone finds out things faster, and I know there's going to be loads of adventures to be had here, loads of hidden secrets, just so much content to enjoy and explore. No matter how many videos you watch, how many streams you watch, you know there's going to be those epic moments in an open sandbox survival game. So coming up here is going to be some annotations to some more of my videos. If you're not subscribed already, make sure you do that. And of course, don't forget to smash that like button. I'm presuming if you've got this far to the video, you probably did enjoy it. But that's it for now, guys. Hopefully, I'll see you all soon.